In 2026, we're still working with the exact same methods that we have been almost since the very start. We're always using our digital scale to get the most precise, accurate measurements every single time. We're always working with the exact same bowl so that you learn it really well. And this is our sourdough starter. This is Carl, as named by my son. Carl, our sourdough starter, is a couple of days since he peaked, and we're in 2026 using both peaked and dropped starter. It doesn't matter where on the spectrum it falls when it's time to bake. That's my opinion. It's been working for us, and I'm going to keep doing this. This sourdough is working when I'm ready to use it. So here's our basic recipe. It has changed ever so slightly in 2026. The recipe that I'm using is as follows: 150 grams of sourdough starter. Again, does not matter whether it has risen to peak or fallen and dropped, as long as it is, within a couple of about 2 weeks or so. Smells lovely. It's still got some bubbles in it, and there's no hooch on top. If it has reached the ick factor, just toss it out. Like, I am not keeping a discard jar in 2026. If it's too icky to bake with, I'm not using it. That completely leaves us empty. Like, we have just about cleaned our jar out. And that's okay. That's exactly what we want, you guys. To our 150 grams of starter, we're going to add 300 grams of water. Our water is filtered, and we rinse through a UV filter. If you don't have UV filtered water, you can use bottled water or any type of purified water. If you're on city water, just don't use the chlorinated water out of your tap. We're going to zero out our scale. It's very important. And we're going to make sure it's on grams. Okay, once it's zeroed out, and make sure you're paying attention to whether or not your mixing tool is in there when you're working, because if you're going to leave it sitting there during your measurement, that's fine, but just make sure you are zeroing it between. Okay, we're looking for 300 grams of water. And that went to 323, and that's okay. Don't stress. In 2026, we are not stressing. To our water, our 300 grams ish, we're going to add about 500 grams of bread flour. This out. So we're done with this spatula until we do our feeding on our sourdough jar. Again, zero it out. And we're looking for 500 grams. There we go. Came to 520. Again, we're not stressing. If it's not perfect, it's going to be just fine. We're going to grab our dough hook. If you don't have a dough hook, use a spatula. It's going to be just fine. And we're going to mix. This is our first mix. So you're going to do your best to scrape it down as best as you can. And it's going to create a shaggy dough. Just trying to get everything somewhat hydrated. And then we're going to let it rest for about half an hour. Once we've let it rest for half an hour, we'll add our kosher salt. In 2026, we like our bread recipe a little salty. We are going to measure out 2 rounded teaspoons of kosher salt, and we're putting it into our mortar and pestle. And I'm going to grind that up and then add it to our sourdough dough. I just find grinding it into a nice fine powder like that, it gives it the best distribution throughout my baking. And that goes for all of my baking. At the half an hour mark, we're going to add our salt, and we're going to start our first stretch and folds. So adding that salt is actually going to help us to have it not stick to us. We're just going to keep stretching and folding until we feel like all that salt has been incorporated, or when it starts to get sticky and stick to your hands, then you know it's time to give it a break. So I just kind of let it drop and roll. Really, we're just trying to mix in that salt. If you find you can't get it to stretch any further, it's kind of fighting back a little bit, take it in 2 hands. First of all, try and get all the little bits on the bottom. Take it in 2 hands, and what I start doing is rolling it in on itself. So we're stretching it and rolling. See how I'm rolling it in on itself? If you kind of imagine the top of a mushroom. So stretch and roll, stretch and roll. So as you can see, it's starting to want to stick a little bit. We know that then it's time to give it a break. So once it starts to stick, put it back in the bowl, cover it back up, and let it rest for at least half an hour to an hour. Pretty much when you think of it next, that's when we're going to do our second set of stretch and folds. We go in for our second round of stretch and folds. So I go stretch, fold, rotate the bowl, stretch, fold, rotate. We're going to do this a couple times. Stretch, fold. When you find that it doesn't want to stretch and fold anymore, we go in with our stretch and rolls. Those are my favorite. Have you figured that out yet? I find it just makes this beautiful, elastic, perfect loaf every time. So I go stretch, roll, and fold. Pinch it right there. And it's what it's doing. It's pulling the tension on the dough. It's just making it smooth and perfect. Stretch and fold and rolls. We do that until it starts to get sticky, and that's when we know it's time to give it another rest. Good morning. So we totally skipped our third set of stretch and folds last night. I fell asleep. But you know what? In 2026, we are not stressing about it. We're just going with the flow, and you know what? You're going to see it's going to make perfect bread anyway. So as long as you get like 2 in there, like you're going to be just fine. Bread is going to be just fine. We are not stressing about it. So it's done majority of its bulk fermentation. There's still a little bit of a ways to go. Make sure you're working in your favorite bowl. You want to pick a bowl that's big enough to support the bulk fermentation, like the rise of it, and stick with that and learn it so that when you visually see that you have done its thing, it's done its rise, you know, so you're not guessing. It just makes it so much easier. This is the bowl that I've been using since the very start, so now I can almost eyeball it and know exactly when it's time to flip it and put it into a banister. Anyway, got a little bit of a ways to go yet. I will chat back.